Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I am your host, your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger, and I am here today with Odille Remmert. And I was introduced to her through Facebook, and we've been chatting back and forth. And as we were chatting and I was looking at her page, I was like, I've got to get this chick on the podcast because she is fascinating. So let me tell you a little bit about Odille. Odille Remmert is an international mindset coach, speaker, author, and co-founder of the Remmert Method. Having changed her own life from a lifetime of physical, emotional, and financial struggle to married to the love of her life, doing what she loves for a living, and now owning the rental properties she used to clean, Odille's passion is helping others to step into their own authentic power by changing the roots of limiting subconscious beliefs, using the latest in neuroscience in the same way that she did. So welcome to the show, Odille.
Thank you, Jennie. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. Now, tell us a little bit about your history, because in your bio, you skim over physical, emotional, financial struggles. And, you know, obviously by accent, you did not start here in the US. So tell us a little bit about your life. How'd you get to where you are now?
Yes, of course. Well, I'm a really hard worker and I struggle a lot, or I did anyway. And I've always tried to do the right thing. I was working from 6 years old, and so I had a very strong work ethic. But despite all of the hard work and the trying to do the right thing and following instructions and all of that, I just couldn't change the recurring patterns, in particular the financial patterns. So no matter what I did, when I earned more money, something would happen. My car would break down, someone wouldn't pay me. My judgment wasn't good. So no matter what I did. And so I still, regardless of how hard I worked, I still just couldn't pay my bills. So I was cleaning other people's houses. I was divorced, renting a room in a shared house in England. So this was towards the end of 2015 at 51 years old, and, suicidal at times as well, and that kind of thing. So it was like, and I had IBS and fibromyalgia. So there was physical stuff as well, and a lot of drama, let's say. And so I had developed the ability to control my brain and body chemistry through a technique I developed then called the Superpower. And I can explain a little bit more about that in a while. But there was still something missing. And the missing link I discovered was childhood memories. That childhood memories actually form the GPS coordinates for where we are now. Oh. And so I'll go into that as well. So anyway, I changed all of that. And within a few months, my thinking had changed to the point where I not only improved my income, but I was also then starting to travel internationally. I flew from England, I flew to Greece, Spain, to America 3 times in that 1 year. And then in the February 2017, at a seminar, I met my current husband, Steve. And so we hit it off, and then we got married, and he happens to be from Illinois, central Illinois. And I had always wanted to live in America. And so I've gone from all of that struggle, working so hard and not getting anywhere, to a completely effortless life that I absolutely love, married to the most wonderful man who I couldn't have imagined existed, and doing what I love. And I ended up owning those rental properties, as mentioned.
Oh my gosh. I love that. So none of that was probably an easy thing to go through because, if we're starting with things that started in childhood, we've been holding on to them, grasping tightly for dear life because this is all we know, right? Yeah. So how did that process start for you? What got you going that had you begin to develop that superpower of going back to childhood memories to change things out?
Right. Thank you. So, well, first of all, I know you've been in psychology, so you'll know the psychological terms and you'll know implicit memory, which is the kind of memory that is subconscious, is unconscious. So we don't need to think consciously, how do I pick up this glass and drink the water? Or how do I, if it's raining outside, and I go outside, I'll get wet. We don't have to think that through, and we can't remember when we learned it, who we learned it from, or what was happening at that time. It's implicit memory. And so in the same way, we learn who we are and how the world works. So you'll notice that two people can have the same experience, the same event happen to them, and each one will experience it differently. So one person, somebody can say something mean, and one person can be hurt, another person can be angry, and another person can find it funny.
Right.
And what makes that difference is the childhood, is the references, the subconscious references from their childhood experiences. For me. So I'm going to give you the example of how it started for me. So we ask 3 questions. The first question is, how do you know it's a problem? So in my case, I knew it was a problem because I couldn't pay my bills. So how do I know I have money problem? I can't pay my bills. The second question is, how does that feel? And it'll feel different for different people. In my case, it felt like they want something of me and I don't have it to give them. I want to give it, but I don't have it. And then the third question is, where in my childhood did I feel that feeling? The same feeling. Now, very, very importantly, it may be a different topic. So it may not be about money. It may be about something completely different. And in my case, it was expectations. So it was about my family expecting me to be something that I wasn't. And now as an adult, money was playing that role.
Oh my gosh, that is so deep. Because I've had these types of conversations and been through those type of childhood things, childhood guided, I don't know, meditation isn't quite the right word, but guided visualization through that process before. And when I did that, it was very interesting which memory it took me to, because it was something I hadn't thought of for at least 3 decades. Had not come up for me, was not something that I ever thought about. But as soon as we were going through that, I was like, and it was something that was so ingrained. I could remember what room of what house I was in, who was around, what was happening. It was crazy because it's one of those things where you then begin to realize the power of the brain, because all of the things that I was remembering in that memory, I was like, that's a lot of detail that I have not thought about since I was 4 years old, right? So for you started with money. That was your first thing you went to. What was the next problem? Since the first question you ask is, how do we know it's a problem? What was the next problem in your life that you then dealt with after you went through that visualization technique?
Well, in my case, money was the biggest thing. So that was and it's not just one memory, of course. So the way I see this, an analogy I use is, if you think of a weed, so the things you don't want in your life, these are weeds. And what you can see of the weed are the branches and leaves. So so that's the empty bank account, the bills, whatever you're dealing with right now, the relationship issues, the health issues, and those are the leaves of branches. Now, what we tend to do, because that's what we can see, is we tend to try cutting off the branches and the leaves and maybe even the stem of the weed. But the problem is, unless we address the roots, it's just going to keep growing back. So addressing the issues as an adult, or that's happening around us right now, that's just the branches and leaves. So what we need to do is go to the childhood, and the childhood are the roots. And take it out by the roots and plant the seeds of what we do want, the flowers we do want. And that's the new childhood memories. So I'm going to give you an example so first of all, I need to say as well, neuroscience has discovered that not only are memories inaccurate, not only can they be changed, they're already changing. Our memories are completely different to what they were originally. Every time we recall a memory, that process in the brain, because the memory is not stored in one place in the brain, and they're not stored as pictures or movies, they're data stored throughout the brain. So as we remember a memory, the brain pulls all of that data together like a jigsaw puzzle, and it changes every time, and then the new version is filed. So just like we can change a phone number, we can change those any childhood memories. So an example is, one of the ones I changed was, I was about 11 years old, standing in the doorway to my grandparents' bedroom. My grandfather was sitting on the bed with a brown leather belt next to him, and I was terrified. I was standing frozen. So I changed that memory to now, instead of a brown leather belt, it's a pink feather boa, and he's playing the fool with the feather boa. And so now the feeling in that memory is fun, and the way what it changed was, I used to feel intimidated by older men. So when I used to find that I felt uncomfortable, I felt intimidated, I felt stupid, those kind of things. I changed that memory, and I no longer had that. So in my brain, when I encountered an older man, my subconscious was referring to those examples with my grandfather, and then pumping stress chemicals into my system. Now it's referring to the pink feather boa. There's no danger. So oh my gosh, that is incredibly powerful. So the listener now is a direct sales mom who's probably, because it's my experience that most people get into direct sales because they are needing a second or third or fourth stream of income, right? Because they are struggling financially. Yes. So as someone who is in the direct sales industry, how would you start with someone like this, or how could they get started in going through this process? Very good question. And so, with direct sales, there's a lot of training. I'm sure you do some fabulous training, and there's training elsewhere. So we all know what we need to do. We all know we need to speak to this number of people, we need to pick up the phone, or we need to, whatever those processes are. So then the question is, what's holding me back from doing it? So, and it's usually I'm worried about what people think of me, or I or I don't have the time, or I'm too tired, or I don't know what to do. So whatever that is, you take that and you go, how do I know? So how do I know I'm too frightened to pick up the phone, or how do I know they'll think something of me, or whatever that is? And then how does that feel? So it may feel scary, it may feel cringy, it may feel frustrating. And then the third question, where in my childhood did I feel that same feeling? Of course, it's not going to have anything to do with direct sales, but there will be something with the same feeling. So it may be a bullying experience. It may be the death of a pet. It may be a divorce. It could be anything, but it'll be the same feeling. So then you go to that memory, and we have step-by-step process for changing a memory, and that's in our free starter pack, which so we have a free starter pack and then they can use that, follow along with the video, taking them through changing a memory.
Oh my gosh, I think that's awesome. Thank you for being so generous with letting my audience in on that. Because guys, seriously, if you're sitting there frustrated right now, wondering, okay, I know I want fill in the blank, whether it's more money, I want the car, I want the trip, I want the whatever it is that you want from your direct sales business. And you just keep finding yourself not doing the thing, not doing the work, whatever it may be. There is something subconscious holding you back, and you just can't figure it out. You're listening to this. The universe has put this episode in front of you for a reason, because this is a tool, a resource that you now have access to begin to, number one, explore the beginnings of that. And then now what's really nice is not just going back and having to go through that again, but be able to actually change it so it's no longer holding you back. Odille, this is awesome. Oh my gosh.
You're very welcome. And one of the ways I talk about it as well is if you think of your childhood memories as the GPS coordinates to wherever you are. So if you want to drive from the city to the beach, and your GPS coordinates are still set for the city, every time you start heading towards the beach, they're going to turn you back. And so if you have childhood memories that prove I'm unworthy, I'm not safe, it's not safe to have money, whatever that is, then every time you start towards money, or success or whatever, you're going to find yourself unconsciously ending up back where you were. So you have to change the GPS coordinates. And then if that's in alignment with what you want, it's automatic. You'll automatically be picking up the phone, everything you say, the decisions you make, the opportunities you notice, and whether you take advantage of them or not, all of that is going to be automatically in alignment with that childhood that proves I'm worthy, I'm safe, life is abundant, life is fun, life is easy, all of that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So, because here's the thing, as I've been going through these things, like I said, I've gone through one of those guided visualizations in the past before. And when I did that, what was really interesting to me is all of a sudden, and I'm not even kidding you, within 2 weeks, my bank account showed the difference.
Right.
It was already growing. It was already changing. And I was like, whoa, that was quick. Right. And so I think as somebody sitting here going, oh my gosh, this is what I've been praying for. Right. So what you guys are going to do, BDSM crew, you know how this goes. As long as you're not driving, grab your phone, because I know that's how y'all listen. Grab your phone, click on the episode that you're listening to right now, and scroll up, because you're going to find a link that's going to take you to Odille's free starter pack that will let you go through some of these memories, go through some of these subconscious things that you've been holding onto and dealing with for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And has kept you from the success that you want. And so now you're going to be able to make these changes, and you'll have Odille helping you through this, because guys, you don't have to do this alone. As you know, that's why you're here. That's why you listen to the podcast. That's because you know that you now have access to someone who can walk you through this process. And I highly recommend that you reach out, go to the website, grab the starter pack, and connect with Odille, because I think it's really important. Because guess what, guys? I don't do this. I can help you once you deal with the subconscious stuff. Let me tell you, then girlfriend, you and I can work, right? Because then I can actually help accelerate you faster, because you don't have that subconscious thing holding that GPS pointing you right back to the city, right back to the city, right back to the city, instead of going to the beach, which is where you want to go. So, Odille, that is so awesome. Now, I also want to share with everybody, you are also in direct sales and network marketing yourself.
I am.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get into your company? Do you want to share the company you're with? Because I hadn't heard of it before we met. So I want to know more.
Well, and now I had no intention of getting into network marketing or anything, because, I'm focused on what we're doing. And the only reason this kind of pricked my ears a little bit is when this friend of mine told me about a coffee that prompts the brain to produce its own happy chemicals. Now, what we do is all about the brain and the gaining control of your own brain chemistry to help your mood. So I know quite a bit about how that works, and it sounded, never heard of that before, but so then I was interested, and I've done a little bit of I've done an overview of neuroscience through Harvard Online University. So I needed to know how those ingredients work on a molecular level, exactly what happens in the synapses of the brain to make sure that it works. And so I did my own research, and yes, it works exactly like that. So the ingredients of the coffee, and there's a capsule in the coffee. What those ingredients do is they prompt the brain to trigger the brain to make its own serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, and dopamine, which all create feelings of happiness, love, connection, and those kind of things. So then I saw it as, I didn't get into the business for it to be a business. I got into it because I saw it as a way to help people do what we do easier. So to help our clients feel good enough to actually practice, practice what we teach them.
And
so that's how it started. And then the more I learned about it, I thought, wow, this really is. And then I met someone who was suicidal and had been introduced to this coffee and started drinking it, and it pulled him back from the edge. And since then, I thought, I need to make sure that everyone knows about it. Even if they don't want it, that's absolutely fine. But even if it saves one person, it's worth it. So that's how I approach sharing it, is just making sure, I just want you to know that if you're cold, there's a coat. That's how I approach the network marketing side of it as well.
And I would definitely agree, because in the conversations we were having through Facebook, it wasn't like you immediately jumped right into that conversation. We were going back and forth. Well, let's learn about each other. What do you do? How does that work? And, it was something that, and of course, with my background being in psychology, anybody who's listened to the podcast for any amount of time knows that I have a degree in psychology, but I intentionally did not go into being a psychologist because I feel so bad for psychologists. And I'm so grateful that there are people out there who do it, because all they do is listen to people's problems all day.
Exactly.
I can't do that.
That's because we have a natural desire to help, to change it, rather than just feel, oh, that's terrible.
Exactly. And how does that make you feel? And, I just could not spend the rest of my life asking people, and how does that make you feel? I just couldn't. But the whole, how the brain works and how people think and how people learn fascinates me. And it serves me now as a coach too, because I'm able to utilize that knowledge, that information, and actually use it to my client's advantage to help them get around some of those more conscious level stuff, right? Because I'm not dealing with subconscious stuff. I'm just helping people begin to think about things in a different way or see things in a different way. But I'm not doing what you do, because no, thank you. I don't want that much power. Thank you very much. But I think the tool that you now have, the coffee, is an extra tool in your tool belt. And I think that's a really great thing, because, for example, there are people who are doing the keto lifestyle and they have a lot of issues with staying on the diet, but there are tools, resources, there are ketones that you can drink some as a supplement to help you get back into that, right? That it's not a shortcut, because if you try and just use the coffee, if you try and just use the ketones, if you try and just use these other things,
exactly. It's
you're not
like
going to get what you want.
Band-aid on something that putting a Band-aid on a gunshot wound is what I like to say.
Oh yeah, but exactly. Mic drop. That is the perfect analogy. Yeah. No. So moving forward, do you mind sharing, or are you able to share the name of the company? Because I don't think we've shared it.
Of course, it's called The Happy Co.
The
Happy Company, but with CO with a dot.
Nice.
So The Happy Co. And they also have teas and lemonade for those who don't drink coffee,
Sure.
So and of course, if anybody would like any more information, they can contact me and I can share more. But so that's basically the.
No, I love that. And especially too, and I don't know if you've had the chance to go and listen to some more episodes of this podcast, but I would recommend you go listen to the episode with Kennedy Brown, because she works for a foundation here in St. Louis called the Archangel, ARC, which are the initials of a good friend of hers from high school who committed suicide when they were seniors in high school. And so she has, as a close family friend, is the face and the voice of this foundation to try and help teenagers who are dealing with suicidal feelings, thoughts, and ideations. And so I think that would be an amazing connection for you, because if there's this simple little tool that someone can like you said, there's a pill they can swallow and a drink that goes along with it that can help support them as they go through their process of healing. Why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Because here's why I'm so passionate about it as well. Because what we know about the brain is that when you are feeling any negative emotion, it's stress chemicals in your system. You're in a level of fight, freeze, flight. Mm-hmm. Whether you're feeling sad or anxious or, lonely, whatever it is. And one of the effects of the fight, freeze, flight state is that blood drains from the prefrontal cortex of your brain to the back of your brain for running away, fighting, or pretending to be dead. And the prefrontal cortex is where we do our cognitive thinking. So problem solving, communication, processing information, all of that. So the challenge is that whenever we're feeling a negative emotion, we literally can't think straight because that part of the brain is offline. So it means that when you're feeling depressed, sad, worried, anxious, you don't have that part of your brain to be able to see the solutions, to work out the challenges and things like that. So it means that going into a suicidal state literally can't think straight.
Oh, wow. So this to me is super important for the listener to pay attention to. If you personally are someone who's dealing with this and you've been looking for a way out, this could be it, guys. This could be the rope that pulls you out of that deep, dark hole. So please, please, please take advantage of Odille's offer. Go to her website, go to the link that we have here in the show notes, and check out the free starter pack and reach out to her if you want that extra tool of the coffee, the tea, the lemonade that's going to be your crutch as you heal, right? Because, when you break a bone, when you break your foot, you can't walk on it. So you use the crutches to help you as you heal. The same thing is true for your brain as you are working through these processes. Guys, please, please, please utilize this. Or if someone in your life is dealing with this is now a tool that you didn't know existed before today. And please offer it out to people because this could literally save a life.
Yes.
So Odille, thank you so much for your time and your expertise in sharing this with my audience. I so appreciate you.
You are so very welcome, Jenny. I love sharing this stuff. It's my passion.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think we're going to have you come back and I don't know, maybe have you on a certain summit this fall in September. So, because this is an important thing that people need to start with, because if it doesn't matter how many company trainings you go to, how many workshops you go to, how many whatever, if you've got that GPS redirecting you back to that place of struggle, that place of not enough, those trainings are never going to be enough. I'm sorry, guys, it's just not going to work until you do the hard work, which apparently sounds like it's not too difficult when you've got Odille walking you through the process. So yeah, definitely, because this is going to take every training, every workshop, everything, every seminar you guys have ever been to, listened to, watched, participated in. And you're finally going to be able to take those things and do something with them and not wonder, why isn't this working? It must be me, right?
Absolutely. And it goes for overwhelm. Overwhelm is also childhood memories. It looks like it's the things you have on your plate right now, but it's not.
Oh, people, telling you. All right. Well, Odille, I'm going to let you get back to your day. Thank you so much for being here. I am so glad that you were open and willing to come share this with my audience. I so appreciate you. And you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Lots of love.
Oh, thank you. And BDSM crew, you guys know how this goes. You're going to stay tuned because there is another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.